Hey, this is Steven, and I want to talk with you guys for a quick second in regards to racial identification among Dominicans. And what I want to talk about, I know that the Dominican Republic is a very diverse country when it comes to the way people look, and also when it comes to the races of people. But what I want to talk about is more so the Dominicans who have more of an African look to them, you know, like brown skin, signature hair texture, um, like the way that the nose and lips are shaped, that sort of thing. And what I kind of want to touch on is like many times when Dominicans come to the United States, um, people, specifically black people, definitely kind of expect them to identify as like black. You know, African Americans expect Dominicans to identify as black because probably the way that they look, basically more or less, you can kind of I don't want to say that, but it's kind of like interchangeable. Like if you put a Dominican Republic in an African American's place, and take away the accent and the name, then you'll probably just think that the person was African American. And however, Dominicans, a lot of times, like Dominicans of majority African ancestry, don't often identify themselves as, black or African. And from what I've heard, this is because, or partially because of identifying as African or black means that they're Haitian and they're not Haitian. However, some people feel that it's kind of like a form of self hate, that they don't love themselves. You know, for Dominican people, it's more like the motherland for them is Spain versus Africa. However, I do understand um, where they're coming from to an extent because they aren't African in the sense that they don't have any cultural heritage that Africans have. They don't know the language, they don't know the customs, they don't dress like Africans, so they wouldn't really identify themselves as Africans. As far as identifying themselves as black, they wouldn't really identify themselves as black because of the whole relation to Haitian people. However, I do feel that genetically and biologically, um, you know, like they're black because, that's something that can be tested through genetics and through science. If you did a DNA test, you like you would see that a lot of their ancestry traces back to Africa more so than Spain. And I do want to point out that I know that all Dominicans are not brown skin tone. Like there are Dominicans who are racially mixed and who are white also. But this is more so about the Dominicans who had a more African look to them. And I think there's a bit of division um, between kind of like Dominicans and African Americans because of that. Because, some people are like, oh, some African Americans are like, oh, you need to identify yourself as black. You look black, you're black. Especially in America, because, in America, they're like one drop and you're black, no matter how far it traces back. But really, if that was the case, then everyone would be black based on popular scientific theories that say that the first man and woman originated from Africa and went on to like populate various um, continents throughout the world and adjusted themselves to the climate, and thus creating different races, like, going to Europe and adjusting to that climate zone, which was a lot of times cold, and having that result in like longer hair and paler skin and that sort of a thing. However, I don't want to go on and on forever. To make a long story short, I think that there's some truth. I believe that Dominicans are black, are African would be a better word. But they're also like part Spanish too. They have some Spanish heritage as well. They have heritage, some indigenous heritage from the people who were originally there from the beginning, before the Spaniards came over. So that whole thing kind of mixes together, and sometimes it gets kind of difficult to racially classify people when everything's so mixed up. And, I believe that when Dominicans come to the United States, it's probably easier for them to identify as Latino or Hispanic because they don't identify themselves as black. So that would be the easiest category for them to fit in. But it's really a complicated issue. Um, this is really something that I would like to get some people's opinions on. I always say I want some people's opinions, but this time, this is one where, you know, opinions really do kind of help people get a different view and a different take on things. So, leave me your comments and your criticisms, your opinions, and things like that. Thanks a lot for taking the time to watch my video.